Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Diálogo Democrático, Democratic Dialogue. This is my monthly program that I bring to you, and I am really extremely glad that I have today a special evening. I call most of my program special evenings, but the tonight's subject that I'm going to be dealing with, I had the great fortune of having as my invited guest one of the people who are recognized as leader in our judicial system. Today, I have the honor of having New York City Civil Court Judge Hilary Gingold. Now, when I said that it's special for me because I met her some time ago through a friend of ours, Anne Stroud, and I got great recommendations from everybody that had met you, George, and I am glad that you take a time from your busy schedule to join me on my program, because I like to tell you that one of the most important things for me is to bring information to our community. Usually I have educational programs because I think benefits all of us. So welcome and thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, it's
Now,
an
for the public, um, the judge is someone that, take a look at the smile. When we go to a court, we like to see someone that is going to be able to deal with our problems with a smile, even if the issue is very painful. But I think that it gives us confidence that the person that is hearing our concerns and our problems is someone that is paying attention. And I know that she does this very well. So, welcome again, Your Honor.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Maria. It's an honor and a pleasure to come and speak tonight. I'm a civil court judge for 4 years now, and I have to say that you were one of the first people that I met when I started to run for civil court 5 years ago. And it's nice to see you again and to continue to be in contact. And now that I'm running for surrogate of New York County, I appreciate all of your time and your patience in sitting with me and talking to me. Before I became a judge, many years ago, I started my career as a social worker. I was a social worker with Catholic Charities for 5 years. I have my bachelor's in social work, and I worked with elderly and disabled adults. That's how I started my career. I became a lawyer when I saw that there was a need for advocacy for senior citizens and for disabled individuals that required the skill of a lawyer. And I spent 25 years in private practice after that as an attorney representing primarily seniors and disabled adults and their families. And I came into the system, into the court system as a law secretary, or it was what it's called, as a principal law clerk for a Supreme Court judge in 2011. I worked for several Supreme Court judges. I worked for the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals as part of her Excellence Initiative to help deal and address the backlog in the court system. I've worked in just about every borough, both as a court attorney, as special referee, and as a judge. And it's important, you're right, to have a smile, because every day I hear the stories of people just like you and I. I always say that we are the people's court, because that is what court is for. What hits the news, the 5%, the teeny tiny big corporate entities, that's not who we see every day. 95% of my day is spent with people like you and me. Everyday people that come to court with their problems. And you have to have a smile. You have to have a good ear and a lot of patience and some common sense. tell you the truth. You need a lot of common sense to do my job. So that's basically my background. And now I'm running for surrogate court because the judge that sits there now is retiring. And so there is an available seat. That's why we're having an election for that seat. And I look forward to winning the primary in June. But more importantly, surrogate's court, for those of you who don't know, it's really the court you go from life to death. You have an adoption, for example, a family adoption. Sometimes.
Let me just ask you. I don't want to interrupt you, but let me just give you a little basic information to the people who are, listening to us.
Yes.
In order to become a judge in New York City and New York State, there is a process, a process that every person, every candidate have to go through. And let me just give information, because I don't want people to think that you are just a judge because you just want to be a judge, or that just someone just there is an empty seat and there you are. There is something called in New York City a Democratic independent panel. Anyone that wants to go through, to become a judge, have to go through that process, have to apply. You have to prove that you are able and capable of holding that position. They examine you from the hair to your toes and everything in between, because there is so many people who that would like to be judges, but they already have an issue on their side that will prevent them to be probably fair once they get on that particular position. And the courts in New York are very complex. We have criminal, civil, matrimonial, you name it, we have it. So there is a difference when someone is appointed by either the governor or the mayor and things like that. But the ones that are like you, that you have earned that position based on your background and the things that you have proven, that everybody is going to respect you and your decision once you become a judge. And the process, that independent panel, is composed by people from our communities, members of community-based organization, law, schools, colleges, a university, and things like that. So they have a way to make you prove that you're going to be a person that everybody is going to trust. And then they designate that candidates in different levels. The most highly qualifies, and those that are qualified. So in New York County, or the same thing happens in Bronx, in all the counties, then you go and present yourself, the most highly qualified person, which you were, to the political clubs to make sure that you'll get the support, because it's a race. You're going to be entering in a race. Even people who are not highly qualified, they have the right to run for the same position.
Yes.
So the best thing for us to do is to see you as the most highly qualified for that position, and also have the support of the majority of the political clubs within our county to be able to carry you in our petition, to make sure that you don't have to go crazy, standing on the corner getting signatures.
Although I did stand on many corners.
You are going probably to have a challenge. Someone is going to be running for the same position, but they don't have the support of the majority of the Democrats in New York County. So maybe because they don't have the same qualification. And also, I don't want to, say something negative about anyone else, because each individual knows you qualify, not qualify, whatever, and they're entitled to that, opportunity also. So I am so glad to see you here, so we can go over the nuances of running for this judicial position, And I think that you had the support of at least like 90% of the political players in Manhattan for the county of Manhattan as a surrogate. So I'm glad, I just want to make, clear that so people understand why you are here
Yes.
and not others.
So to explain further, that application process is a very lengthy procedure that we go through for county. We call it the County Independent Screening Panel. It's not just community activists. There are at least 20 different bar associations, minority bar associations. There's the county bar, the New York City bar, all of these different groups of lawyers, Metropolitan Black Bar Association, the Korean American Bar Association, the Asian American Bar Association, Hispanic Bar Association, Puerto Rican Bar Association, the Dominican Bar Association. Each of the different affinity, what they're called affinity bar groups, they participate in the interview and screening process, which is very lengthy. You have an application, you have 10 different, for example, I'm a sitting judge, so I had to have 10 different law firms that have appeared before me, winners and losers, and ask them to speak not only on my behalf, but really to talk about my skills and ability as a judge. Being a judge, you have to be very patient. You have to have really strong listening skills. I talk about common sense. You have to have heart, because that's what the job requires. People come to court, they're not at their best. And they come to court and they don't know the law, or they don't speak English well enough, or they're not as educated as they think they should be. That doesn't mean they lose. And going through this process of being found most highly qualified, I'm honored and privileged by it, but it's a process that, if you want to be a judge in New York County, which I think is the greatest county, I'm a little prejudiced, I live here, I think we have the best process because of our screening panel. And I went through the same process to be found most highly qualified when I ran for civil court. And it is a very complex process. It's kind of like what you see. I'm not comparing myself to anyone running for the US Supreme Court, but when you are screened for any judgeship that is of a long term, surrogates is 14 years, for example. A civil court judge seat is for 10 years. You want to make sure that the person in that chair has the right qualifications. And it's not just checking off the college, law school, years of experience, of which I'm working over 36 years. I'm a lawyer 36 years. I was a social worker for 5 years before that. I volunteer in my community. I volunteer in soup kitchens and food pantries throughout the city. One of the major area of concern for me, and has been, having my background, is food insecurity. I'm always concerned about that. It's something that I'm aware of when people come to court. We have homeless people that come to court. We have mentally ill people who come to court. And we have families that come to court. And if you're not well fed, it's hard to get what you need and be able to ask for the help that you're entitled to. And so when you become a judge and you're found highly qualified out of New York County, that's really a hallmark, in my opinion, for your skills to handle what comes in the door. Whether you're in family court, criminal court, as I've sat, civil court, Supreme, surrogates, it's our panel process is one of the most intense panels anywhere in the country. Forget that it's just New York County. So I'm very proud that I came through that panel process, because I feel that the voters can have some confidence in knowing that we have been properly vetted, that I have been spoken to, spoken about, my decisions have been read by many different groups, and that's very important for who's sitting in the chair that's there for 10 years or 14 years as the position I'm looking for now. That's a long time to have one person, and then they never get questioned again until they're up for re-election.
Right.
So
So
that's,
I think it's extremely also important to know that it's terrifying to go to court if you have committed a crime, if you're being accused of whatever. And we have seen the problems that we have within our court system because you also have to respect the laws and also the legislators sometimes have made some changes on our in our process. We see it now with the situation with the bails, no bails, the young people, the old people, and all that thing that is impacting in a decision that a judge has to make based on a particular situation, a particular law. So we hear people saying that they release this person because you couldn't afford to to be to pay bail, to post bail, and things like that. So it's a very complex situation, as you said. But today we are going to be talking about the surrogate court because as we know, is the different situations in different in different court system, including the drivers, the motor vehicles, and God only knows what happens there. So we like to educate a little about the responsibilities and what a surrogate court judge does and what it's all about. Such as will, I mean, I think I don't have to tell you what you're going to tell us.
so surrogate's court is an interesting court, and a lot of people don't know what it means. So in New York, we call it surrogate court. If you're in Florida, they call it surrogate court and family court are in the same building. We have a separate courthouse, and it's the surrogate. And surrogate is it's an interesting word because it's in place of a parent. You're acting as a parent in many ways. For example, if people most likely people say, well, if you're going to adopt a child, you'd go to family court. If you adopt a child that's not a family member, not a niece or a nephew or a grandchild, you would have to go to family court because child's ACS would do an investigation. They'd make sure your home was a safe place. But if you were going to adopt a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, because something happened to their biological parents that they couldn't take custody of that child, you could go to surrogate court, and the surrogate does adoptions, intra-family adoptions, which is an interesting thought because at the same time that the judge is doing an adoption in the morning, in the afternoon, that same judge is hearing cases about someone who died and handling their estate.
Okay.
How do we find out what happens if somebody dies and they don't have a will? How do you distribute that person's assets?
Okay. So let me just go back a little
Sure.
because I failed to do something and I had to apologize to a lot of people. Primero que todo, siempre este programa lo hacemos en español, en los dos idiomas, pero yo estaba tan entusiasmada con tener esta jueza aquí. Quiero dar un poquito en resumen lo que hemos hablado. La jueza, a mí no me gusta decir jueza, me gusta decir juez. Y es porque es la forma de vida de decirlo. Hilary Gingold es una juez de la Corte Civil en Nueva York y le estoy dando las gracias por aparecer en este programa porque vamos a hablar de algo extremadamente importante para todos nosotros. Los hispanos, todos los que vivimos aquí en el condado de Nueva York, en Manhattan, como se le llama. Pero la corte que se llama en español testamentaria, es una palabra bien extraña, pero bueno, es la corte que tiene, hace decisiones acerca de la vida, de vida, de muerte, de adopciones, de dinero, también la responsabilidad de distribuir las herencias y también decidir acerca de las situaciones de los niños que han sido dejados huérfanos por la muerte de uno de los padres o de los padres y no tienen a nadie quien los pueda ayudar. Entonces, es extremadamente importante que nosotros sepamos por qué estamos poner atención a esta posición. Además, la juez nos ha dicho de su background, de quién es ella. Es una abogada, trabajó como trabajadora social, de ahí se dirigió la parte legal, se hizo abogada, ha tenido una trayectoria bastante liberal, independiente, que es algo que nosotros necesitamos, que un juez tenga los ojos y los oídos abiertos a las decisiones que van a tener cuando una persona se presenta delante de ellos. Entonces ahora ella nos va a explicar cuáles son las claves primordiales de la Corte Testamentaria, y entonces yo le voy a decir después, voy a hacer la traducción un poquito más tarde. Okay, so now I just did a little history about you and who you are and everything else. So now,
Thank
okay,
you.
so we're moving now into the responsibilities, wills, and and things like that.
So the courthouse is an interesting courthouse because people think surrogate's court, it's only about death and dying. And really, it's about the living. It's when you die, whether you die with an estate or you actually have something, or you die without a will or with a will. How do you resolve those family disputes? How do you handle sharing the wealth of an individual, no matter how small or how great it is? And being the surrogate requires somebody who has a bit of life experience, number one, in my opinion, and a lot of legal experience in the subject matter, in figuring out how to distribute the assets that someone may or may not have. And I say may not have. What about people who have stock certificates? People who work for the city, they work for the state, they work for the government, and they have a pension and they pass away, and maybe there are assets in that pension that need to be distributed to children, grandchildren, a spouse, nieces, nephews, friends. This is a courthouse that deals with assets from very small, couple of dollars, to many, many millions. And then it also deals with what's in between. We talked about adoption. Now we talk about something else that is a very important population for us, and that is what we would say intellectually challenged individuals, children and adults who need a guardian to manage the money that they may have, that they may be entitled to, whether it be through an estate or through a lawsuit. And that money needs to be managed for that person's entire life. How do we manage somebody who's intellectually challenged but can take care of themselves? They can live alone. They can have a certain quality of life. We don't want to micromanage people. We want people to live their fullest life that they can. And the surrogate is somebody who makes sure that the guardian's appointed for people who need a guardian, instead of doing the most, really do the right by a person, not the most, because that's not necessarily in the best interest of someone who has an intellectual challenge but can take care of themselves. And if they can't take care of themselves, then we need a guardian that is appointed that can make those decisions about someone's health and well-being. So the surrogate is the person who makes sure that those appointments are done fairly and properly, and makes sure that there's an accounting. You can't just put a person and make someone a guardian of someone who can't speak for themselves and then not look in and check in on them and make sure that they're doing right by that person. Doing the right thing is very, very important in the surrogate court. It's not just about following the law. Yes, you have to follow the law, but there's a certain amount of discretion at interpreting that law, unlike any other building, in my opinion, any other courthouse. So it's a place that you go to from birth, really from birth to death. We all see in the paper now about people who can't carry a child, but they want a surrogate to carry a baby for them. That also happens in surrogate's court. How do we make those agreements? That's now legal in New York. How do we protect the biological parents, the mother who would, the woman who would carry the baby, the surrogate? How do we protect all of those interests? And the surrogate is the person who helps guide those relationships and make sure that they are fair and that people are properly compensated. So it is
the decisions made by a judge with the trial or no trial. How do you manage? Because we have two situations that are very, people that are very close to us. One is on a home, is being on a home for 3 years. No relatives. One relative she has, but he doesn't want to get involved because he's much elderly than she is, and someone that she became very familiar with is handling everything that she does, and the social worker on the home is only believes what that person, that third person, is telling them. So we feel that that person is being held hostage by not able to make decisions, and I'm not able to take cover and things like that, and you just don't know how to take
so
care
in
of
something like that, you would have to go to surrogate's court and make an application.
any individual, anyone, even if someone is not related to that person.
Sure, of course. You can be concerned and you can make that application as even if you're a stranger, you're not a stranger, it's your friend and you're concerned. You can make an application to the court. Hey, there's somebody who's not being helped. And as far as trials are concerned, there aren't jury trials really in surrogate's court. It's the judge. You do have trials, but a trial isn't necessarily the best resolution of a case like this. The best resolution is getting people to come and take a look and see what's going on. Having a guardian appointed, making not a person who just decides on their own that they have the ability to take over someone's life. You need a separate guardian. You need an objective person to go and make that decision, to see, make a recommendation and write a report to the judge to say, hey, this isn't a safe environment financially or otherwise for this particular person. And the judge makes that determination based upon the evidence, based upon the examinations of an independent expert to go and see what's happening in order to appoint a guardian properly to make sure that this person isn't being taken advantage of.
Okay, thank you. This is really interesting. Another situation is like people who are deceased, and then all these relatives that come from all over the place, they all show up at the funeral home and claiming something that they believe is for them to take. So also the Surrogate Court is responsible for dealing with that type of situation.
Yes. So in that instance, if somebody doesn't have a will and they pass away, and you're right, a funeral happens and all of a sudden you never knew this person had 12 cousins from New Jersey who suddenly show up and they say, oh, my long lost cousin passed away and I'm entitled to money from this estate. The public administrator is appointed by the judge, by the surrogate, for people who die without a will. And the public administrator would do an investigation, gather the assets, we call marshaling the assets of the dead person, and figure out who gets what, and figure out what the percentages are. And that's governed by statute, by the closeness of the relationship to the familial, for example, children or siblings, parents are closer than cousins, and a distribution would be made like that to protect the assets. Even when you're dead, you're still entitled to protection. Your assets are entitled to protection. The items that you've accumulated in your life are entitled to be distributed appropriately. And that's the job of the public administrator, to make sure that those long lost cousins that really had nothing to do with this person should get more than they're entitled to get.
Okay. Well, and then about this is, this is sad, sad and funny. Someone from my neighborhood passed away also, that she didn't have any relative, but someone that lived, she helped them, for, young person. They, when she passed away, they went to the coroner and they got their certificate and things like that. Well, this person was very religious. She wanted to be buried, but these other people, then this person decided that she was going to be cremated. They cremated. They threw the ashes through from the George Washington Bridge, and case closed. I mean, it was really sad because she wanted to be buried next to her husband, and it's just, some people just take over and do some, make decisions that are really, it's too late, of course. But I think that we should be aware that if we get a protection, that we have a will. I don't have a will yet, because I have a lot of pair of shoes. I don't know who wants my shoes.
Oh,
So
Maria.
so anyway,
You know
I
what?
have nothing to leave behind. But anyway, it's important now that I listen to you, the explanations about, how to protect, each individual, decision also, and whatever they have left, if they have anything left, that we can push this. I mean, this should be really done, because it's sad. Someone, make decisions based on just someone else craziness. But what I call the situation with this person, and I said no. She always said that she wanted to be buried in the cemetery in New Jersey. She had a plot and things like that. All of a sudden, they just cremated, and disposed her. It was just sad.
You
Um,
know what? What's really a shame, and I say this frequently, is knowledge is power. And one of the things as being a surrogate what I pledge to do is to make sure that there are programs for the public, information programs, literature that you should be able to get in your native language. That to me is a big fight I have all the time, that we have information offered in not only just in English, but in Spanish, Mandarin, Cantonese, Russian, French, Creole. We have many languages in this city, and people need to process serious information like this in the best way possible, which would be your native language. We have the capabilities, and I believe that the surrogate, one of the things we can offer is a really strong help center, having pro bono lawyers, retired lawyers, educate the public, educate the community. It doesn't only have to be lawyers, it can be social workers, about how do you do a will? Why do you need a will? What to do when you have a loved one who clearly needs a guardian and you don't know what to do. The courthouse is not, it's the people's courthouse. It's your courthouse and it's my courthouse. Just like in civil court when I go to work every day. We're here to serve you. That's the purpose of the court. It's to ensure that what the phrase, and people hear it and they say, well, that's just for criminal, due process. You're entitled to due process. I'm entitled to due process. And it's important that the judge in the surrogate's court understand that and practice that, giving due process, giving people the opportunity to get that knowledge, to make the right decision, to have a will. And Maria, you need a will. Even if it's for the shoes, you need a will, all kidding aside, because it's important to know, and you're at peace with yourself if you know that your wishes about where you'll rest when you're not here.
And that also stop fractures within their families, because it just really gets really tense and bad when someone have not left a will or some instructions that someone else is decided to it's a burden. What I'm trying to say is it's a burden to members of the family that are left behind when there is no way of directions and what to do. And sometimes happens it's an accident. It's not just people who just die because they are elderly or they are ill and things like that. is that it's a sudden death that leaves people
Yes.
with that responsibility, and we know that it has created violence in families and things like that. So it's really important, and that's one reason why I think that we need to speak about this and educate everyone in our communities to start putting our things in order, and then what music do you want my funeral? What which priest I want to to
Yes.
be on this on this presiding the services and things like that, which is really best.
It's a very big burden. You're right. I've seen families be destroyed because someone didn't leave a will, fight over an object, and never speak. And it could be an inexpensive object. It'd be, people think that families are broken up when someone dies because it's money, $100,000, $1,000,000. Many times that fighting is not about money. It's about grandma's bowl. It's about a vase.
Yeah.
It is about a piece of furniture, a piece of jewelry. I mean, I'm sure that if you and I sat down together and had a cup of tea, we could think of many friends that we know that stopped speaking to a sibling, a sister or a brother, over mom's watch,
Right.
Dad's watch, a pair of earrings. And that really does not have to happen. A will is not an expensive item to have drafted. It's a document that anybody can have. And it really, if done right and done properly, it makes it easier for the family to go about grieving and moving on with life and staying close. Because isn't that what we all want in the end?
Correct.
Like our
Okay, so
families
now
to
let me
stay
let me let
intact.
me go back. Let me go back and do a little Spanish. Lo que estamos hablando hace unos momentos es la importancia de esta situación para los familiares en caso de que haya un accidente, una muerte rápida, con las personas que no han planeado lo que puede suceder después que no estemos en este mundo. La juez nos dice que debemos tratar de conservar no solamente las relaciones entre familiares para que no hayan problemas diferentes en dividir siquiera cualquier posesión que tenemos para que se resuelva muy pronto con un testamento, que es un documento que no es complicado, se puede hacer muy simple, a menos que no tengamos una gran cantidad de dinero. Y eso es algo que necesitamos tratar de corregir y de educar a nuestras personas, nuestra gente, inclusive yo que digo que tengo muchísimos zapatos y nadie los quiere, pero vamos también la responsabilidad de los familiares a decidir cómo va a ser el funeral, dónde lo van a enterrar y una serie de situaciones que llevan a la división entre la familia cuando un documento tan simple como un testamento puede aliviar, resolver este tipo de situación. Let me see, what else do we, now, let me just, listening to you, I get more excited about your candidacy because I know that, of course, with your background as a judge already in the civil court, how you're going to be handling that position that that we are going to see on June 28th. And we have to make sure that people come and give your support because of your qualification. Because I think the way you have explained very simple words, some of the situations that you're going to be encountering and making a decision, and also making sure that you're going to be able to appoint people, guardians for children and adoptions and things like that in a very independent and also fair way of doing it. So I am, as appealing everybody. Let me just tell you something. You're not the only one that is running in the primary. I'm running also for re-election for the state committee, and I am on the attack because I am very someone liberal, I'm very independent, and I try to do what I feel the community needs to, get done by whatever position that we would, like to, get either elected or re-elected. You have the, I don't know, the way I look at you, it makes me confident that I also have another judge, Surrogate Court Judge Rita Mella, that also is this. There are two courts, right? I mean, it's one
Yes,
court with two judges,
yes,
and you have the same responsibilities.
yes. So each surrogate, so in New York County, there are 2 surrogates. Brooklyn, there are 2 surrogates. Bronx is 1, Queens is 1, and Staten Island has 1. And everybody has the same responsibility and their own staff. But we work, because New York City is so large, so many people, it's shared. One of the things I didn't tell you, I would like to share. And so in being a judge, what's really important to be relatable is when I say it's you and me, we are the same. I'm a mom. I have 2 adult children, one of whom is married, one is getting married. I have parents. My father is 92 and we're dealing with dementia and taking care of him. And that is a 24-hour-a-day job. I'm very blessed. I have a lot of siblings who are helping. And I'm married 38 years. I'm with my husband 42 years since we're teenagers. So I feel that, in being a judge, you take yourself wherever you go. And when you go to the bench every day, you take your family with you in the back of your head. They're with you. Your background, your experience for me, as someone's daughter, someone's mother, a wife, a friend, a sibling, all of these jobs, they make the judge who that judge really is. It's not just that you wear a black robe. You take a lot of those roles with you and you bring them to work with you. And it does, for me, it helps me keep me grounded and realistic about what I can do for people, and also the expectations of the people who come before me, because many people come to court and they don't have a lawyer. And you don't always need a lawyer. You shouldn't have to have a lawyer for every single issue when you go to court. The court should be able to help you and
But
guide
this
you
is what's so
appropriately.
beautiful about what I see about you, that I am confident that the people who are going to be coming to see you are going to listen to you, explain to you what the situations is going to, is happening, and you're going to be make a fair decision and handle the situation, properly, which is most important thing. When we go to court, it's very scary, and it doesn't matter how simple it may be, but it still, gets us a little tight. So, estoy diciendo que estoy contenta de ver la juez Gingold, que creo que ella va a hacer un gran trabajo en la corte cuando gane el próximo 28 de junio, que tenemos que salir a votar, no solamente por ella, pero también para mí. Y que sé que ella va a hacer un gran trabajo. Les dije también que tengo la otra juez, Rita Mella, dominicana, una persona muy dedicada a su trabajo. Yo creo que va a ser un team para mejorar muchas de las situaciones que tenemos aquí en el condado de New York, y debemos hacer el esfuerzo de salir a votar por esta candidata que me place y que aceptó de su trabajo y su tiempo venir aquí a estar con nosotros. Let me say, we're going to be a little wrap up, a little things about housekeeping for my show. But then so just tell me anything else that you want us to hear about you.
I really thank you, Maria, for the opportunity tonight to speak to you and be on your show. It's really an honor and a privilege. And I wish you all the best in your election. And I know that your community is lucky to have you, because you are a very thoughtful person. And as someone who is a candidate and as a judge, as you know, Many, many people come to you for advice and for your blessing. And it brings a lot of, it eases my mind to know that at least, I have people like you who are in my corner and who have said to me that they have confidence in me as a judge. That was very important when I became an elected civil court judge in 2018, taking the bench in 2019. You can't be a judge and not be part of your community. And it includes everybody's community. The city of New York, that's my home, and that's our community. And I look forward to continuing to serve you. So I thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. Let me see what else can. Oh, let me just ask. What is the very first thing that you are going to do once you you are elected as a surrogate court judge?
The very first thing is to make sure that letters testamentary and the backlog of unopposed matters is addressed immediately, signed, notarized, so that people can move on with their lives. There is nothing worse than waiting for paper that documents that are not being, that no one's objecting to. Right now, if you need certain documents because a loved one passed away, you could be waiting a year, 6 months for those documents, and it's unreasonable. So the very first thing that I plan to do is to address the backlog, which is something I have a lot of experience doing. I did it for the chief judge. I did it in Brooklyn Criminal when I was appointed there, and I work on it every day in the civil court at 111 Center Street. So I have a lot of experience in doing that. And so that's the first thing, is really tackling the easy stuff, the stuff that people are entitled to right away and should have it without a problem. And then the other very, very big issue for me is making the courthouse easy for people to, like the everyday person, to come in and get the help they need. So for example, your friend that you're worried about and you don't know where to go, you should be able to go to the help window at the surrogate court and be directed appropriately with real common sense guidance. How do you help this person? How do we make a difference and better their lives? So those are the very first items that I plan to do.
Okay. No, that's really great. April. Oh, let me just tell the audience that there is a decision last early this year, that the political maps, the areas, the New York State was redistricted because, and they have new lines for Congress and Senate and Assembly, all the positions, and they have created a really confusing a situation for some, that we weren't prepared for the drastic lines that they were, that they drew for, in some areas. Some people are very happy, others are not. Of course, that brings situations that it's going to create a lot of confusions on the primary, and this coming primary. Um, and I would like, and I urge people to come out and vote, because that's essential to continue our democracy. We need to make sure that that we elect the right people, that before we go to vote, we analyze the people, even the new people who are running for office. They should be able to give us an idea of their plans for the future, in case that they want to, throw someone else out of that position. Just put it mildly. Sometimes people like to say, okay, I don't want that person, I don't like the way he walks, or the way something doesn't, goes right with that person, and I don't want it. And then they vote, and then they realize that they have made a mistake. So we need to be fair to the people who are sitting in some, offices. Make sure that we continue. And I am a Democrat. I call myself a blue Democrat, because there is no way that I'm going to be blaming the Democratic Party for all the ills that we have in our nation, in our communities. And we need to make sure that the young people vote, that they have a voice, that they are empowered, that they know that they are, they are part of the decision making, some of the young people still don't know what they're doing, but it's okay. But most of the young people, we have to trust them, because I mean that gives an opportunity in the future to have better elected officials. I am asking people to register to vote, those that are not registered yet, and to make sure that we do empower the right people and to continue giving support to those people that we feel are going to be doing a great job. I hope that you are going to do that. Le estoy diciendo a la juez que estoy preocupada por las líneas que trazaron ahora en el mapa político para las posiciones de Congreso, asambleístas, senadores y todas estas cosas. Pero que también tenemos que tener presente de que nosotros debemos saber por quién vamos a votar, a quién vamos a poner en lugar de los que están allí cuando esas personas están haciendo lo que deben hacer, y porque no nos guste algo de ellos, queremos sacarlo de esas posiciones. Entonces, el día 28 de junio son las primarias y hay 10 días antes de eso para que las personas puedan votar de acuerdo a sus calendarios, pero que los jóvenes, nosotros debemos enseñar a nuestros jóvenes la responsabilidad del voto y debemos darle el espacio adecuado para que ellos también determinen el futuro de ellos. April, we don't have too much time left, but I like to, thank Freddie Pinto and Carla Zenaida Mendez from Manhattan neighborhood to put this whole thing together, because we're just sitting here talking, but they do a lot of, all the background work. And yes, every month they help me. I mean, George, you have no idea what I make them go through put this thing together. But April is a religious month. I was talking to my sister, which is my right hand, my left hand, and how important April is. We have Ramadan, we have Easter, we have Orthodox Easter, we have Passover, you name it, we have it. And we need to have a little spiritual things within us to make sure that we are at peace. And when I say peace, I'm thinking about Ukraine, what is happening in Europe, what is happening,
absolutely,
devastation of a country, thousands and thousands. Not only all the people that already went through wars before, the victims of atrocities, but the children and seeing mothers and I saw someone that was killed and the dog is sitting next to the body of the person that was the owner. I mean, that animal is having feelings and a pain that had someone that took care of him, or they took care of each other, is no longer there because of the atrocities and also the brutality of some of the tyrants that we have all over the place. So I think we should pray a little, or pray a little harder, and sing our love to them and whatever we can do for the people in Ukraine, because looking and watching the news is just, what's next? What is it that we can do as individuals? But what can we do as a nation, and the other nation that are just sitting, just watching and not doing enough? And that is something that it's really terrible. And so my prayers are for the Ukraine people. That is just what can I say? How can we help? Necesitamos ayudar a las personas de ese país de Ukraine que están sufriendo una atrocidad, desbaratando una nación completa por una ambición de algunos rusos, porque yo creo que no todos los rusos están de acuerdo con eso. Pero, por supuesto, yo quiero darle las gracias a usted por estar conmigo. I would like to say thank you for taking your time, and your husband.
Thank you.
And just wish we still have, how many minutes? 3 minutes, 2 minutes to say anything else.
Well, you know what? First, I want to wish those who celebrate Ramadan an easy fast, because we fast. I'm Jewish, and we fast Yom Kippur, and we have certain fasting days. But fasting for a month gives you a lot of time to think and hope for the best and pray for peace in the world. My grandfather lived through the pogroms in Russia. And so for my family, what's happening in the Ukraine, we know about this. And my grandfather would say, we never get off the line. This time it's the Ukrainians. We never, all of us, have to be a little kinder. And when I think about what's happening in the Ukraine, I think, how do we protect our Americans here? And really it's by practicing love and affection for everybody, not just our own family members. We live in a community. We have to be kinder to one another. We have to speak nicer. We have to watch our tone. We have to modulate our voices. And we have to do this, whether we're a judge or whether you're the person who bags the groceries at the supermarket. And we're just not taking care of one another. We're not loving each other the way we should. The way you are told this in church, we are told this in synagogue, whether you're told this in a mosque. The message of love and hope and peace doesn't belong just in a house of worship. It belongs on the street. It belongs in the courthouses. It belongs at work. And if we don't start practicing what we preach, then we'll lose it to the next generation. And the world won't be, it should be softer. We need to be softer with one another. We need to be kinder to one another.
Yeah, no,
That's
you are
really
right. I have my little notes here that we celebrate Easter on 4/17, Easter Orthodox 4/24, Passover from 4/15 to 4/23. We have the Ramadan from 4/2 to May 4th. So we have a lot to give, to be thankful for also. And I am glad to have you here. And thank you so much and good night.
Good night. Take care. Thank you so much for having me. Be well.